Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to a chilly evening for meeting of council. It is February the 10th, 5:30 p.m., and I'll call the meeting to order. Everybody's had an opportunity to review agendas. Let's start off with the consent agenda. Do we have anything there that needs to be discussed, reviewed? Seeing none, we'll move on to the, yeah, we don't really need one if nobody has anything. How am I supposed to read that? Yeah, that's passed by unanimous consent because we have no one that wants to be reading anything else. So, as far as the regular agenda, before we get too carried away, there is one item that I would like to add under in-camera items. It'll be a labor item. So FOIP 21 and 24, and I don't necessarily matters for in camera, but it will, just for organizational purposes, it'll need to go prior to 8.1. So it'll be 8.01 or something. Does anyone have anything else? If not, we could use a motion. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Anyone have anything else? Very good. Go ahead and vote. And that is unanimous. Thanks, everyone. Unanimously in favor, rather. The first item up is our open forum. As most of us know in this room, the open forum is to provide citizens and ratepayers with an opportunity to ask questions on matters of public interest or concern during a regular council meeting. And council may allow a person to make a presentation or ask a question of council. However, questions may not necessarily be answered at this time. A reminder of the open forum process, a few points I will bring up. Presentations or questions to council are to be no longer than 5 minutes cumulative total. Responses may be provided by any member of council or administration, or the presentation may simply be received as information. Council may request administration for additional information prior to responding. A response from a member of council or administration may not represent the opinion of council as a whole. Open forum presentations or questions are recorded in the minutes of the meeting. And as you can tell by on air, they are recorded digitally as well. So with that in mind, we do have one this evening. A request for invoice reduction with respect to invoicing from the Lacombe Fire Department. And with us, I believe, are Stacy and Todd Short, if you'd care to make your way up. Thanks for taking advantage of the opportunity to speak to council. And I'll just have you press the button there so your mic's active so that everyone at home and in the gallery can hear you. And whenever you start speaking, the clock will be activated. Welcome.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. And I want to start by saying a huge thank you to Jason Fleming, the fire chief, and as well, of course, to Denise and Diane, who have been so wonderful through this process. This is the first time either of us have ever been here. And so it's been great having the two of them as support and guide us along. So thank you, ladies, again for that. And of course, the Lacombe Fire Department for responding that night. So back in August, they responded to a fire at Bruns Crescent. It's the rental property of my husband and I. The fire started on a single burner on the stove. Lacombe Fire Department responded very, very quickly. We are super grateful to everybody that responded. I believe some of the police were also there. Responded very quickly. Lacombe went in within a half an hour. The first all clear was called, which is just phenomenal that happened so quickly. And then half an hour after that, the second all clear was called. Boss stopped was called 2 hours in. The house pretty much had to be gutted. It's $200,000 of damage. Like, the work that they had to do in that house was just phenomenal. So we're so impressed with our support. Unfortunately, the issue we've now run into is even though we had the house insured at the top of the line policy that we could, premium policy, insurance companies still cap fire department expenses at $5,000. So you can imagine the added expense. So the total initial bill we received was 54 or 31, which we were just going to pay. We didn't have an issue with that, but then it got revised to be just over 7,500, which then, you know, at Christmas time, when you're hit with a bill of an extra $2,500 that you had no idea was coming, couldn't plan for, not to mention all the other expenses that are now coming along with this unplanned disaster, you know, utility hookups and disconnections and getting the trees cleared off the property so that they can restore the house, all these added expenses that we're quickly learning not everything is covered by insurance. So the insurance company said the best thing to do would be to come to council to see if there's anything we could do regarding the bill. So we put together a quick 2-pager document for you guys, and there's about a half-page summary at the start there. I won't go through it all in detail, but it is there for you guys to review. I don't know if you had a chance before the meeting, but we put together sort of the case summary of everything that happened. So I guess we're just here today to see if there's anything at all you could do to help us get the bill reduced closer to what the insurance will cover so that we're not out of pocket for as much time. Lacombe responded, Black Falls responded. Black Falls, I believe, charged substantially more than Lacombe Fire Department did. They charged for 3 hours, even though they were on site after Lacombe Fire and after the power. So there's all those little nuances in the documents I provided, but we're really just coming to you to plead to see if there's anything we can do with the invoice. That was all I had. I had notes, but I clearly didn't follow them.
Well, I'll start off by saying there's no good time for a fire, and sorry for your loss. That's very unfortunate. When I went over the paperwork over the weekend and whatnot and reviewed your case, I guess I kind of struggled with a few things. One, I was trying to weigh the documentation between the amount of time that was spent and the severity of the fire. It seemed odd to me that there was an additional call out to Black Falls to another agency. And I'm just curious, Director Piché or Acting CAO Piché this evening, how is that initiated? Why was Black Falls on site at all?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So when a call for, especially for an urban structure fire, gets called out, there is an automatic call for mutual aid. Our policy does have a minimum of 15 personnel to respond to an urban structure fire. And because we can't always guarantee with our paid on call that we're going to always have 15 members show up. There's just an automatic call out for mutual aid at that time. And that's been initiated for a number of years from previous chiefs.
Okay. So you quoted some numbers there. I have no, I expect they're very accurate. I guess I'm just curious as to how we come up with those numbers. Is that an industry standard or one that was placed upon our policy by a previous fire personnel, or how does that come about?
We do have a service level policy where it comes from. I would have to double check to see if that is industry standard or not. I would assume that there would be some correlation to it, but I can double check and find out for sure.
Okay. It would be interesting to know. I just, to start with, I think it's great that we have agreements with other municipalities for mutual aid. I'm just not necessarily sold on this whole idea of automatic callouts for a particular type of fire. In this case, a structure fire. If it was at the call of one of our on-site fire authorities, the personnel, whoever's in charge, the site commander or whatever it may be, then that's fine. But to say it's automatic and that just because it happens to be a house fire, in my opinion, I don't think that that's necessarily in our best interest, because it does lead to some issues. This is the second similar type of billing thing that's been a problem for us. And I expect it won't be the last if we continue on this road. So I would like for that to possibly be looked at. I'm not necessarily sure that's going to help our current situation much, but I think moving forward, I think there's room for improvement in that policy. I guess I'll put it that way. And I'd like to see us review it. Is there anything on the horizon or something that we could put on the horizon?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for asking that. Since we have signed our new service level agreement with Lacombe County, we are set to do a our fire bylaw needs to be aligned and reviewed. So that'll be coming forward. And along with that will be the policy for our service levels. So they'll be coming hand in hand. Unfortunately, I was wanting to do it before the end of 2024, but this is actually really good timing, and it does fall into that. So we will be trying to bring it forward within the next quarter.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy, through to acting CEO Pichet. Do other jurisdictions have the same requirements?
Some do. Our mutual aid partner directly is Black Falls. They don't have the reciprocating. We're not automatically called out to theirs, so it isn't reciprocating for them.
For your information, they do charge more than you guys do. So if there was a reciprocal, for council's own benefit, you might want to true that up.
Thank you. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, sorry for your loss. I unfortunately have an intimate understanding of what you're going through
Oh,
because I lost revenue property in January of 2023.
sorry.
And believe it or not, your bill is less than two thirds of what we were charged. So I don't know. I struggle with that. We can give people, I don't know, leniency in this case. I'm wondering if this is a question for your insurer.
And we did bring it up, but
Yeah.
we've escalated it a few times through the insurance and through like we even went out on their sales side, on their claim side. We did, because this was the last place we wanted to come. Like, we're so thankful for the services. Of course, we didn't want to try to second guess that bill, but this was the only option they left us. And we just, like, to the point of the Black Falls, with the engines that responded, there wouldn't have even been a hydrant for Black Falls to hook up to. So for them to have the 3-hour call out when a lot of the Lacombe units weren't even there for 3 hours, and for them not to put any fire or any water on the fire, that was just sort of the one thing we were hoping we could maybe bring up. But totally understand if there's nothing you guys can do. We just were advised by insurance to give this a shot. So here we are.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Acting CEO Pichet, I guess with respect to the billing itself there was a bit of confusion because of the two, and as I was going through them, was the itemized list supplied compliant with our policy? The reason I ask that is a lump sum figure from Black Falls, which I'm not disputing the time and whatnot that they spent, but the way that it was presented as a lump sum, do we have provision for that in our current policy to be able to forward that bill on?
In schedule, let me just, I believe it's Schedule A of our bylaw. There is nothing regarding mutual aid in there. However, in another section of the bylaw, it does say that there are recovery of costs when, with respect to what it takes to incur to put out fires. However, mutual aid is not listed in our Schedule A.
Okay. Well, yeah, not about to debate that further at this forum, but I think that's something that we need to
Sure.
address and perhaps make a little cleaner and clearer then on that documentation for future policies. We appreciate your time. Once again, sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Really appreciate you guys' time as well.
And while I'm certainly not going to promise anything, I would suggest that you remain in contact with administration, perhaps in a week week or 10 days time, and they can at least let you update you on if in fact anything is happening, or when in fact the updated policy will be coming about. And thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
That is completely up to you. All right, presentations. Coordinator Balabono, item 4.1 is the 23-24 request for information response summary.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy and Council. This evening, we're presenting the 2023 versus 2024 request for information response summary. And at the last council meeting, council approved the request for information and response policy, and the CAO Q4 report provided a list of these 2024 RFIs. This evening, administration is following up by presenting an overview of the 2023 versus 2024 brief analysis and comparison of the RFI requests and responses. This chart here compares the total number of RFIs between 2023 and 2024. In 2023, we recorded 123 RFIs, while in 2024, the total increased to 140. And just to note, the top blue line of the 2024 data highlights the 29 out of the 140 RFIs were council requests. Excluded from this data is the numbers we see here do include confidential RFIs, which are handled under the Freedom of Information and Protection Act. What's not included is the additional requests that come through aren't included that encompass the department manager direct responses and actions. These actions, the direct responses address immediate and emergent items such as fallen trees or damaged garbage bins, windstorm debris, graffiti on city property, event dates, situations requiring redirection to Lacombe County, as we often get requests that actually should be going to the county, with being City of Lacombe and Lacombe County, and also external organizations when the city is not directly involved. Up here, we have the RFI responses by division. The RFI responses by division show that the Operations Service Division led in both 2023 and 2024, and though it saw a decrease in requests for 2024. Meanwhile, Community Services Division and the Corporate Protective Services Division experienced an increase in requests. Additionally, the newly established Strategy and Capital Delivery Division, implemented in September, is represented on the chart for 2024. Oh, I'm sorry. The citizens versus council requests. As council requests decreased by 13% from 42 in 2023 to 29 in 2024, the citizen requests increased by 12% from 83 to 110. There is one item in there missing to make the 140, and that was a request from the CAO. So I didn't hit either one of those. This increase may be attributed to administration providing clearer guidance and resources to citizens, promoting transparency and facilitating the sharing of responses with both the public and council. This pie chart illustrates the percentage of the RFIs each division responded to, showing a slight shift from operations to community services. Community services experienced the largest growth with an increase of 13% increase compared to 2023 requests. It is important, however, to note that the division totals from January to September were based on the previous organizational structure before the changes took effect in September. So these changes included planning and development services moving from operations services to community services, the finance department shifting under operations, the parks department transitioning from community services to operations services, and the engineering services moving under the newly established strategy and Capital Delivery Division. And all the values have been rounded up. The new strategy and capital delivery division was 0.7, but we rounded it up just to get it on the chart. And that is the summary of the RFI report.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I appreciate this report. I guess one, I think, useful metric going forward could potentially be time that's taken to actually answer the questions. I think that actually would be valuable. I know I had a couple that took it felt like excessively long. I know we say that it's going to take 4 to 6 weeks or whatever it says, but it did take longer than that. So I would just be curious. I think that would be a good metric going forward to see, what the response time is to requests.
Councillor Ilkstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I wanted to thank administration for this work, but particularly in answering the questions, because I did have dealings with a citizen who said, well, I'll never hear from them. And I could confidently say, no, you will. And so I really appreciate that I can say that, and that your answers are always very fulsome. And so I really do appreciate that. I don't need to know all the information. I can direct them to administration, and they can, actually, I don't know a lot of information. I should just say that for a minute there, but that I can direct them to have their questions answered. So I appreciate that.
Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I just simply appreciate the fact that we do this. As Mayor will tell you, when we were first elected, we didn't do this. This is something that's been done for a number of years now, and I think it's a terrific tool for citizens to get in contact with us and bring forward their concerns. So I think that's great in itself.
I expect most of us are similar in that certainly not perfect, and there are some that perhaps don't get answered for whatever reason. But if it's something that is made in writing, I can guarantee you're going to get an answer. It might not be quite in the time frame that you had hoped for, or it might not be the answer that you wanted, but it will be answered. And completely off topic, I found it odd. I received an inquiry similar to this about garbage services from Friday afternoon late, and went to call the guy back, and I thought, well, that's a weird number. So it turned out it was a gentleman from Lacombe, Louisiana. So he was happy to hear from me on something that we had absolutely nothing to do with. But in any event, yeah, the responses are made, and we do get back to people. So thanks for bringing that up, both of you. Anyone else? Any comments on that item? Very good. Let's move on to request for decision. Item 6.1, Manager McKinnon, bylaw 514.1, affordable housing and student dormitories taxation, before us for second and possibly third reading this evening.
Good evening, Mayor Creasy and Council. Tonight I'm presenting bylaw 514.1 for second and third readings. This is an amendment to bylaw 514, which allows the city to continue levying municipal property taxes on affordable housing accommodations. Council previously gave first reading to this bylaw on January 27th. The background of this, on December 2024, Council was given a presentation on the recent provincial legislation changes under Bill 20. These changes fully exempt affordable housing accommodations from property taxes starting the 2025 year. However, municipalities can pass a bylaw to continue to collect the taxes, the municipal portion of the taxes on these properties. In Lacombe, there's 2 properties that qualify. One is owned by the Lacombe Foundation, and the other is owned by Parkland Community Living. Without bylaw 514.1, the city would see an annual municipal tax loss of approximately $26,000. The education portion of this remains exempt under the provincial legislation, meaning a $7,000 reduction to these 2 properties. The city already does a similar bylaw principle to the student dormitories under bylaw 514. Bylaw 514.1 ensures consistency in our approach to property taxation. It's recommended the council give second reading to 514.1, and if second reading were approved unanimously, the council resolves to consider third reading of bylaw at the same meeting. In conclusion, this bylaw ensures the city maintains stable municipal revenue, and it aligns with our approach with similar properties. As a result, I recommend the council proceed with the second and third readings of bylaw 514.1. And if passed, this bylaw would take place in effect for the 2025 taxation year. Thank you. And if you have any questions, happy to answer.
Appreciate that, Senior Manager McKinnon. That generated some lights. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Not that exciting. I would move that council give second reading to bylaw 514.1.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. Just for further clarification, so you're saying this is for 2026, 2025. It is for 2025. And so in 2024, they were taxed as well. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Dallas.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. When this was brought forward last time, I think I was standing kind of separate from some other people in the room, and so I appreciate that and understand. I also understand that these organizations were previously paying property tax on this, and it has been planned into their budget. However, I feel like we've been presented an opportunity to support these organizations and support affordable living and support our vulnerable populations. And as such, I'm not interested in passing this. And I feel like as long as we continue to support other levels of government that will not fund them in ways that they need, then we can support them where we can, and it's our responsibility. And so that's my standing on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Very good. So you may want the motion read back to them again? No? Everyone satisfied with the comments? Please go ahead and vote. And I didn't quite catch there. I think that was passed by a margin of 5-2. Councillors Connick and Dallas both voting no on that one. So noted. Given that vote, the likelihood of it going to a third vote, I don't think are great, but if anybody still wants to make that call, you're certainly welcome to do so. Councillor Dallas.
So I'm willing to make the motion that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 514.1 at the same meeting as the second. I'm not sure postponing it for 2 weeks will change other people's opinion on this. So, certainly willing to see if we can move forward.
Fair enough. Thank you. Any comments? Please go ahead and vote. And that is passed unanimously for consideration for third reading the same time, or the same meeting as the second reading, rather. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. I'll move that council gives third reading to bylaw 514.1. But then I do have a comment. May I?
Please proceed.
Have we heard at all from these two groups? Do they know that this change was a possibility? They do. Okay, but we have not heard from them.
So I think we should at least have a response from It looks like Councillor Connick's got something to say, and perhaps administration does as well. Councillor Connick?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yeah, it did come up at the Lacombe Foundation meeting. Naturally, of course, they would, if there's a savings to be had and they don't have to pay that, that'd be tremendous. But they've fully budgeted for it. As you mentioned, they've paid it in the past. I do agree with Councillor Dallas. I think that money could be used in other areas other than taxation for them. But if there's a wish of council to do that, then so be it.
Acting CAO Pichet.
I'm sorry, Mayor Creasy, we have not had any conversation with the groups ourselves, so we have no input on that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Excuse me. There was letters presented early in December to the first meeting, but that was just definitely a blanket clause that they would like to continue to proceed without taxation. But since that and the first reading was passed, we have not heard anything else. So no phone calls, but they did present letters early in the fall when this was passed by the province.
Appreciate that
Yeah,
distinction.
and that
Thank
was the
you.
December 12th meeting. I think those letters are in.
Thank you for that, Senior Manager McKinnon. Nothing additional. Please proceed to vote. With respect to third reading of bylaw 514.1, that is passed by a margin of 5-2. Councillors Connick and Dallas voting no on that item. Thanks, everyone. Acting CAO Pichet, looks like you're up next here with the traffic bylaw amendment, bylaw 506.1, before us for second reading and possibly third.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Back on October 28th, there was a notice of motion to propose amending the traffic bylaw to allow for unattached construction trailers on roads at work sites from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And council unanimously approved this motion on November 12th, 2024. So administration went back and created a definition of a construction trailer. And a construction trailer means any non-motorized vehicle for which evidence can be provided reasonably demonstrating that the trailer is one, allowed by a certified construction company that is providing actual construction or demolition services to occupants of the property immediately adjacent to the location of the trailer, or two, is owned or rented by an occupant of the property immediately adjacent to the location of the trailer and is being used for construction purposes by that occupant. We left the clause, section 511A, stating that it prohibits trailers on highways, unattached trailers on highways, unless they are attached to a vehicle. Sorry, I should reword that. Prohibits trailers on highways unless they are attached to a vehicle. We left that clause in the bylaw. However, we did propose an exception to that rule. So the amendment is added that an exception to Section 511A, that a construction trailers may be parked unattached from a vehicle adjacent to a property where construction is being completed from the hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. After 5 p.m., the trailer must be attached to a vehicle and parked in compliance with this bylaw. Unattached trailers designed for recreation and occupancy are not allowed under this exception. Therefore, it does address the work that contractors have come to council about, and it does not apply to recreation or trailers for occupancy. So camping trailers, ATV trailers, that type of thing is not allowed under this bylaw. And then, of course, after 5 p.m., trailers are to be reattached to a vehicle to comply within the rules of the bylaw. There's another portion to this amendment, and that is to address a change to the road permit section. The road permit process was added when we created bylaw 506. So anyone impacting the traffic, they must come to City Hall and get a permit. This amendment, though, exempts franchisees such as Fortis Alberta and ATCO Gas from paying the medium or high impact permit fee, which is only $75. However, they do have to obtain the permit, and they are subject to any penalties for non-compliance, as outlined in Schedule B. The clause that is added for the road permit exemption is parties with whom the City of Lacombe has entered into a franchise agreement, ATCO Gas and Pipelines Limited and Fortis Alberta Inc., are exempt from the fees outlined in Schedule C for medium and high impact work they initiate within the city's public right-of-ways. This exemption does not apply to the specific penalties outlined in Schedule B, which remain enforceable. If there are any questions, I am happy to answer them at this time.
Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll just go ahead and make that motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 506.1.
Councillor Hoekstra, I think this was a portion of this was brought forward by yourself. Did it capture the intent of the changes you were hoping for? Okay. Thank you. Any additional comments? Please proceed to vote. And that is passed unanimously. Councillor Connick.
I also move that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 506.1 at the same meeting as second reading.
One thing that I did question was how are we planning on bylaw being able to tell that it's in fact a construction trailer? Are we just going off the signage on it, or what if it doesn't have any signage?
The questions will have to be asked if a trailer is unattached. Of course, the bylaw enforcement officers can do a search on the registered owner, and they can contact them to find out if they are working within the adjacent property. And that really is surrounding the questions are for asking those.
Thank you. Not seeing any other lights on. Please go ahead and vote. Well, that'll make for some happy contractors. That is passed unanimously for third reading as well. Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake. For a possibility of considering third reading. I don't know if that's foreshadowing or not. We'll see. Councillor Hoekstra.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw 506.1.
Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I have a quick question through to Acting Chief Administrative Officer. That's way too long. Pichet, on emergencies, like if there's an emergency on the weekend or when they're not able to get a permit, are they allowed to start work?
You're talking about the road permits?
Yeah.
In that regard? That is a very good question. Can I go through to Director Thompson there?
Sure, I'd be happy to answer the question. So in our franchise agreement with ATCO and with Fortis outlines the conditions on which they can proceed to do work under an emergency scenario, and they would notify the municipality at their earliest opportunity to do so. So this permit system is not meant to cover like, true emergencies.
Thank you for that. So there would be no penalties to those franchised utilities for doing that then?
No, we understand that emergencies occur and that it's in the safety of the public that response from ATCO and Fortis in this case are prompt, and we trust that they will do everything to protect the public's safety.
Thank you for that.
Anyone else? Please proceed to vote. Now the official one for the third reading is passed unanimously. Thanks, everyone. Acting CEO Piche, item 6.3, the Regional Collaboration Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. So the City of Lacombe, the Town of Black Falls, and Lacombe County have a history of collaboration through IDP and ICF committees. The members of the IDP and ICF committee from the 3 municipalities recently reviewed a terms of reference for the City of Red Deer and Red Deer County's Regional Collaboration Committee. The representatives have unanimously resolved to recommend exploring the development of a regional collaboration committee to expand this cooperation. The potential scope was taken from the City of Red Deer and Red Deer County model, and it can serve as a forum to discuss issues on opportunities that impact the municipalities, fostering equitable regional partnerships. And it focuses on strategic and high-level collaboration and makes recommendations to both councils for formal decision-making. Their scope includes topics originating from their ICFs, which includes recreation, culture, infrastructure, and economic development. And they also discuss emerging or existing regional issues and opportunities, strategic discussions on topics covered by other committees, and inclusion of additional partners. The possible structure that was presented can be set up for the 3 municipalities are that there are 9 political representatives, so your chief elected official, and then 2 councillors from each municipality. So there'll be City of Lacombe, Lacombe County, and Town of Black Falls. They're not recommending any alternate, no alternates are included in the RCC, and all members are expected to attend the meetings. On the administrative side, the CAOs from all 3 municipalities would serve in an advisory capacity to the committee. Now, this structure emphasizes equal representation and collaboration between the 3 municipalities. I personally wasn't at the last meeting to understand all of the components. I believe a couple of our councillors may have been, but what we would propose as our next steps is that with council's endorsement, administration will create a draft terms of reference with review and input from the administrative staff from Lacombe County and the Town of Black Falls, and then that draft terms of reference would be then referred to each representative council for consideration. If there's any other questions, I hope I can answer them. But
Thank you for that, Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. This is the result of actually attending Alberta Munis that Councillor Connick and I were in a session where we heard the very strong benefits of the collaboration between the City of Red Deer and the County of Red Deer. And consequently, when we came back to our committee, or before even, as I chaired that committee, I asked our CEO to look into it, and he pulled up the terms of reference from their committee. So point is, it's very infant, it's in the infancy stage, but it's intriguing, especially as we want to go forward to potentially build, you know, like a recreation facility together. We may want a committee that has some formal guidelines under which that we would operate. So that is the desire of, or the impetus behind this action.
Appreciate you bringing that up, Councillor Hoekstra. Actually, this has led to some speculation in the community that we've got a big new facility planned because we're taking this route. But as you said, in its infancy, and whether or not it comes to fruition for any type of facility to happen between these three municipalities remains to be seen. In any event, I expect it will be, what would be the proper word, many years down the road in any event. But I appreciate you bringing that up. Councillor Gullickson?
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. Yes, for sure. This is just getting started and we have to look like 25 years down the road with this process to accomplish all these things. And I'm very happy that this council is looking at doing that. And I would be happy to make the motion that council directs administration to develop terms of reference for a regional collaboration committee involving the city of Lacombe, Lacombe County, and the town of Black Falls.
Thanks, Councillor Gullickson. Any additional comments? Please go ahead and vote.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll just, I guess, read the motion that council direct administration to bring forward improved methods of communication to transparently and effectively share city initiatives information to the public. The three key elements of the strategy being traditional media, social media / email, and public signage. And then, is that all we want, or would you like me to speak on that?
I think it's a good opportunity.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on this notice of motion. A question did come up about the previous notice of motion I had made, and I want to clarify that the previous notice of motion that was successful was in regard to signage for capital funding projects. Now, although this is along a similar vein, I just wanted to expand on it based on some recent frustrations I had seen and some interactions with the public. What drove me to make this notice of motion is not a lack of engagement from the public, but a lack of easily understandable and accessible information. We as council and admin have privilege in being so well informed, and it is important to remember that. Lack of information and misinformation are two very prominent pieces of our current political landscape. We can control the lack of information, and my hope is that this will be a tool in battling misinformation and uninformed opinions. There will always be nonsense and uninformed voices, but we should strive to make them the minority in the future. This motion is all about strategy and finding the best tools for meeting our people where they are. So that's.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Mayor Creasy. This question is directed back at Councillor Dallas. We have talked about this, and so you also made comments about the website. Does this motion, do you feel, satisfactorily cover also how well we use the city's website?
Thank you. So yeah, I guess I don't feel like the website is being utilized. I guess maybe naively, I would include that under social media in this. And so I guess based on what administration, any questions they may have, like I'm certainly interested in providing more thoughts and details on what this is. I don't know, how in depth we want me to go here and do this. I think, yeah, the biggest thing is we have all the tools. I just feel like our strategy can be adjusted or improved for getting our information out there. And so that's my thought process.
Certainly fair comments. I think there's always, especially with communication more than anything else, there's always room for improvement. I guess my fear is that without some real direction, I'd like to think that we have a administration that does strive to improve basically in all areas of our work, communication being an important one, but without some specific lanes here, I'm just not necessarily sure how much good is going to come from suggesting they do better. I guess that's my worry with this being so general, vague in nature. Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. While I definitely appreciate your thoughts, particularly on the vagueness of that, I do actually think that this is a very valuable motion. I'm appreciative to Councillor Dallas for bringing it forward. I do feel like communication is such an important part of what we do. And I also have wondered at times in the past if we really do that as well as we should. And that's not a slight at our communications department or anything like that. I just feel like here's an opportunity to revamp our strategies when it comes to this. We're in a world that's continually, like, the speed of communication is increasing. The need for accuracy and accessibility to that information is just more and more important, because exactly as Councillor Dallas alluded to, that if you, in the vacuum of accurate information, inaccurate just runs rampant, and we have an opportunity to be proactive. What that exactly looks like, I don't know. That is literally what this motion is seeking to ask of administration. Obviously, administration has a lot of resources and expertise to draw from. Will council certainly have some ideas? I know I do. I'm sure Councillor Dallas has, and I'm sure there'll be some other ideas around the table as well. So I look forward to this this conversation, and I am going to support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Dallas, in addition to what you've obviously got something to say as well, but I guess once again, I'm just not totally satisfied on what it is that we're really asking here, other than to do things better. And I think that we, as council, have lots of opportunities to have input to that through a lot of the processes that exist already. However, if there's ways to improve, I'm all ears, and I would like to hear them, as I expect the rest of council would. I'm just wondering what it is that we're hoping to come out of this specifically at this time.
So I think you're right. I do agree that information is being shared currently. We are using avenues. I guess, and this, again, this is difficult. I'm not trying to insult staff or slight anybody that works for the city, but I feel like this is an opportunity to reinvigorate the conversation around that. We can review our strategies, and this is all about reevaluating and improving our strategy on communication. I've got 5 line items here of things I would love to see going out to the people, and I could give you a list of 20 things. And so, as much as I would love to invent this new strategy, I'm also not a communications expert. So, I can just give you things of the ideas was the website. I went on there. I found some information difficult to find. There was nothing posted on the city's website for news and related information. It was a headline, and then it was just completely blank there. So it was highlighting nothing about any recent decisions or any recent movements. Councillor Gullickson had brought up a digital sign in the past, and I maybe was too quick to shoot down the location of it, but the value of a tool like that is actually, I do see value in that, and that was probably short-sighted of myself. We can improve our social media. There is multiple avenues on social media where we can reach people, and as beautiful as the pictures of the community are, they don't share pertinent information to people. And we've got, I just think there's many avenues. Our attempt is to meet people where they are, and we don't need to just overload them with information all the time. but I think we can be using our resources differently, and that involves radio, newspaper. There's so many different ways to meet people, and I think we need to be effectively using all of them. So
Thank you. Anyone else? Let's go ahead and vote then. And that is carried by a margin of 5-2, I believe. Myself and Councillor Ross answering no to that. Very good. So we'll look forward to something coming forward for council's review sometime in the future. Hard to nail it down to a date, but thanks everyone. I think the only other items that we're missing or from our agenda are the in-camera items. So I'll go through our next meetings. They're all regular council meetings in chambers here at 5:30 p.m. And the next is on February 24th, then followed on March 10th, again on March 24th. So everyone can add those to your calendars for consideration. And then we do have the 3 items as were outlined earlier for in-camera discussion once we receive the appropriate motion. Councillor Gullickson.
Thank you, Mayor Creasy. I'll move that we move in camera.
Very good. Record will reflect that moved in camera at 6:30 p.m. Twice tonight for me. And that is unanimously in favor. Thanks, everyone.